And the you make of RFK and vaccines and what he's saying about it and the position he's been given in this incoming administration?
Well, he wrote a book saying that Tony Fauci and I kill millions of children and make billions of dollars with vaccines. And, people can judge for themselves whether that's correct or not.
The Journal previously reported on Gates's ties to Jeffrey Epstein, including that Epstein threatened Gates over an affair he had. The two met a few times, Gates says, to discuss philanthropy.
Do you think, looking back at that moment, that you were being played?
Well, Jeffrey, in retrospect, I was foolish to spend any time with him, and he sort of got time with various people by spending time with other people. So yes, I think I was quite stupid. I thought it would help me with global health philanthropy. In fact, it failed to do that, and it was just a huge mistake.
Has it made you more wary of connections?
Definitely. Yeah. Are you kidding?
Let's get all the facts on the table. Coronavirus, COVID-19, the whole thing was premeditated. It was murder. It was active terrorism by a state against the world. Let's call it what it is. And let's not pretend like maybe there's a more complex explanation for, the facts. And the facts are, here's the bad news, for 58 years, the United States, the UK, in collaboration with researchers around the world, planned to use coronavirus to instill the most tyrannical reform of society that this generation has ever seen. And they did it purely premeditated to make sure that we were cowed into submission. And the bad news for them is there's a lot of people that didn't take the knee.
One issue that really grabbed me as urgent were issues related to population.
In 1998, Dr. Zabin became the founding director of the Bill and Melinda Gates Institute for Population Control.
Dr. Zabin became the founding director of the Bill and Melinda Gates Institute for Population Control.
We see a lot of things that are going very well, things like reducing childhood death and First, we've got population. The world today has 6.8 billion people. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
Is spending $1 million on that last 3 months of life for that patient, would it be better not to lay off those 10 teachers and to make that trade-off in medical costs? But that's called the death panel, and you're not supposed to have that discussion. Today, the greatest risk of global catastrophe doesn't look like this. Instead, it looks like this. If anything kills over 10 million people in the next few decades, it's most likely to be a highly infectious virus rather than a war.
If anything kills over 10 million people in the next few decades, it's most likely to be a highly infectious virus.
So let's look at each one of these and see how we can get this down to zero. Probably one of these numbers is going to have to get pretty near to zero. Now, malaria is, of course, transmitted by mosquitoes. I brought some here so you could experience this. We'll let those roam around the auditorium a little bit.
I brought some here so you could experience this. We'll let those roam around the auditorium a little bit.
But did you come to reproductive issues as an intellectual?
When I was growing up, my parents were always involved in various volunteer things. My dad was head of Planned Parenthood,
My dad was head of Planned Parenthood.
The ultimate solution, the only thing that really lets us go back completely to normal and feel good about sitting in a stadium with lots of other people, is to create a vaccine and not just take care of our country, but take that vaccine out to the global population.
Take that vaccine out to the global population.
We clearly need a vaccine that works in the upper age range because they're most at risk of that. And doing that so that you amp it up so it works in older people and yet you don't have side effects. You know, if we have, 1 in 10,000 side effects, that's, way more, 700,000, people who will suffer from that.
Way more, 700,000, people who will suffer from that.
But you don't have a choice. People act like you have a choice. People don't feel like going to the stadium when they might get infected.
But you don't have a choice. People act like you have a choice.
What else are we not listening to that we need to take action on now?
Well, the idea of a bioterrorist attack is kind of the nightmare scenario.
The idea of a bioterrorist attack is kind of the nightmare scenario.
The economy is not going to be anything like it was. It's going to take a long time to recover. It's going to be, people are going to be surprised at how slow and how fitful this is.
It's just going to take a long time to recover. It's going to be, people are going to be surprised at how slow and how fitful this is.
It is critical to understand that the breakdown you just saw is damning, but it's just the tip of the iceberg, just the surface. So I want to end this report with one more clip for you to remember. Years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, he was on national television with his then wife, Melinda Gates, and said, we just shoot genetically modified organisms right in kids' arms to see what they'll do. We have no idea. That violates the Nuremberg Code. That's punishable by death under those laws passed after World War II. Now, I don't wish any harm upon him. I want him to get due process. I want to turn him into a martyr. But in my opinion, in my view, he's violated the Nuremberg Code way worse than Dr. Mengele, the angel of death, ever did. He admits, hey, India is a great laboratory to just test on kids. That's illegal. That's medical experiments. And they want to make us all take these and intimidate us, which violates informed consent. Bill Gates is a genocidal maniac. He's convicted by the facts and his own words. Here it is.
Is there something to worry about with medicines? That is, might some of them have side effects? Do we need safety testing? I mean, and we're taking things that are, genetically modified organisms and we're injecting them in little kids' arms. We just shoot them right into the vein. So, yeah, I think maybe we should have a safety system where we, do trials and test things out.